I'm here with Jenn and she is showing us a brand new technique I've never even heard of called Monostenciling.
Yeah, it's a new technique and it came about because I wanted to make something for these cups and I wanted to use transparencies, so let me show you how I did it.
Yeah, let's get started.
So I started with blank printable transparencies, and you can get them for inkjet and laser printers, so everybody can do this. And I found some old book pages and I copied this onto here. Okay. This is going to be the base.
You just printed it right on there. Right. That's the base of what we're doing.
Yep, and it could be blank, you could do it on something else, but this is what we're starting with today. The next thing we have to do is create the stencil for the Monostencil. And we're going to use some stencil film. Now, here's a little tip. Everything here we're using today is clear, and so like my biggest...
I was going to say, it looks identical.
Yeah, it is. And you can tell by feeling they're different thicknesses, but I also recommend that you keep them in their packages so you know what they are when you come back to it. So I made this little sketch here, and I would love for you to scan this in, because this is what we're going to...
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to pop this in, and we're going to scan it into our electronic cutter so that we can make a stencil out of it. So I'm simply going to load the mat and get that going. And one of the cool things is I actually think that this design that you've done would also be cool as a stamp. It would also be cool just as a cut. It would also be cool as so many things. And so I think inspiration also, I mean, look at that flower, right? That's
exactly
absolutely everywhere.
Excellent. So
once I know this is all scanned in, here you go, let's see. So once this is all scanned in, what you get and what we will end up cutting out is we're gonna use the stencil film to cut a stencil, which is what we've done here. It is very loud.
But you know it's stuck on there, right?
You do know that it's stuck on there.
And what's left is also a mask. I'm not going to take it off right now, but you have that flower design.
Right, and for people who don't know the difference between a stencil and a mask, if I can do this for a second, is generally something that you put paint around, whereas a stencil is something that you put paint through.
Exactly.
Not that it's important, it's just terminology.
All right, so you know what we need now?
Yes.
We need another clear thing.
Okay.
And this clear thing is a monoprint plate.
Right.
And it has this protective coating on it. We're actually going to only take it off on one side, another tip, because we'll keep the other side nice and fresh. And we're going to use this as our printer.
Keep the other side nice and, oh, I see, because it's protecting it.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so it won't get scratched. It'll be great. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of paint. Now I'm using a water-based block printing paint, but you could use any kind of thick craft paint, and I'm using a brayer.
You know, I think that printing with like block printing ink or something, it has a much longer open time, meaning it stays wet a lot longer. So particularly for mono prints, it gives you a little more space to work, whereas regular acrylic paint is going to dry super fast, and that's going to be a little bit tougher.
And because of the process we're doing, you'll see here it takes a minute. We want to leave that on there. Okay, so now I want to take some of this paint off, because if I just put two plastic things together...
By the way, I noticed that you very carefully went all the way to the edges, not. So that's an interesting thing too.
Yeah, if you want it to look perfect, don't be perfect. It actually, I like to embrace the imperfectness. So you could scratch into this, you could use your fingers and draw.
That's a nature thing too, because nature isn't perfect. And if you're trying to make something from nature, I think it's always a weird thing to do it perfectly. Okay, this is a foie bois tool, right? Which you can buy at the hardware store.
Exactly.
And whoa.
I know.
Whoa. So you're using kind of a rocking motion?
And I'm going to do it one more time here. So you've sort of seen me do this a little bit now. If I go a little bit different in pattern, I can get an even different, so I can change my wood grain.
That is so cool.
So
that is so
my
cool.
favorite tool. And there's so many different places that make it, but it's fantastic.
Now this would be a beautiful print just like this.
So this is the first part of our mono print. So we're going to put this, our transparent stencil, on here. And I'm going to take one of these pieces. This is actually one of the little tissue papers that come in there, so keep them.
So it's kind of an upcycling thing, I was going to say, using it. And now you're using a brayer to just really push those two pieces together.
Yep.
Okay.
Put that aside. Now we have this is our new mono print. So we're going to pull this off, and this is what we're going to print
you're
with.
done with the plate.
Yes,
I can move that out of the way.
And we bring back in our printed transparency.
This is actually, the stencil is now becoming because it's plastic, it's a tool. So this is why you couldn't do it out of paper. You have to make it out of plastic because it has to be something that can transfer that paint over to the next surface.
So now I've got to get that paint to transfer, so I'm going to do the same thing I just did.
Now I'm curious, are you putting this paint on the same side that you printed it on, or does it not matter?
So it does matter. If you're using an inkjet transparency, it's wet, and so you just want to, I like putting it on the opposite side of where you already have the ink so you don't reactivate what your printer printed.
Of course.
But if you're doing it with laser, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we have now monoprinted, but now it's time to stencil. So we're gonna take
Wait a second, you still have the stencil on top of there.
Yep, the stencil's
it's
still
clear
on
and
there.
clear, so I didn't totally realize. So you still have the stencil on top of there, and you're not even gonna remove it yet.
So this is why it's a mono stencil. So I'm monoprinting at the same time I'm stenciling.
Oh.
You know your favorite, dab a little on, dab a little off.
Yeah, I do like that. And you're using gold paint, which is really nice with the white and black for a really cool look.
Exactly. And you can be very thick with, or not thick, but you can cover everything. You can just cover it as
I
a
always
whisper.
think with stenciling, it's better to go in multiple layers if you want that thickness rather than one thick layer.
Exactly.
Ooh, and when you pull it off,
So if you
that's
grab
so
me
cool.
one of those
it's
white sheets,
mono
we can see
printed
that.
and stenciled.
Exactly. So that's what that looks like.
Really, really neat.
And then the cups that we're using, they come with a little template. So
Yes,
I just
let me move this out of the way for you.
You're very good at moving things for me. So I just trace this on here. What we would do is cut this out. The little bottom screws off. And you just roll it up and put it in there. And now I have like my actual artwork with me. So when I can't find the exact thing I want, I know I can make it. And I can make it to match every
That is
outfit.
super cool. And you know, I want to give another tip, which is, okay, so if you look back here to our electronic cutter, you can see that I have the design here saved. And now we're going to go ahead and save it, you know, and the thing is, once you have this design saved, you can now reuse it over and over again. And of course, you can even do stuff like you can resize it so that you could make all kinds of like stamps and duplicates and other things that are the same thing, except that now I can make it bigger, smaller, whatever I want it to be. And I think that is super duper cool. Okay, I'm in love with monostenciling. I'm definitely gonna try it.